So, how's everybody doing? Good? Cool. My name is Zelnick the Magician, for anybody who doesn't know. Now, what's really cool is when we get to see some close-up magic that is so awesome that it questions whether or not it's a trick or it's real magic. But you're not going to get to see that from me tonight. Instead, what I want to do is I want to share with you how I got started in magic, or the reason I got started in magic. When I was a kid, about, how old are you? About 10. When I was about 9 or 10, this guy pulled out a deck of cards, and he started fanning through the cards, and he just asked me to stop. So just tell me when to stop. Stop. You want this one right here? You sure you want that one? I can go back or I can go forward. You want that card right there. Okay, I want you to look at that card. Okay, I'm not going to look at the card. Okay, now we could have gone back or we could have gone forward just a little bit more. It doesn't really matter. But then he did something really kind of strange. He took the cards, he said, "Is that your card?" Nope. Okay, so he put one down and then he put one on top. He said, "Is that your card?" Nope. So he put one down and then he put one on top. He said, "Is that your card?" And then he put one down and he put one on top. So that left us with 3 cards that are not your card, correct? Correct. So then he asked me, he said, "Point at 2 of the cards." Go ahead, point at 2 of the cards. It's interesting that you wanted to eliminate that card because that was not your card. Okay, point at one of the 2 cards. You want that card. Okay, because this card was not your card, but that card was your card. Now, my wife made pot pie dinners for dinner tonight, and they were hot. They were steaming hot. They were so hot. You have to say that a little bit louder. I don't think the camera heard you.
How hot were they?
Here, let me show you how hot they were. See, I brought my own fork. This is how hot the pot pies were. That's pretty hot. Okay, does your mom ever let you eat hot food? Sometimes? Okay, here, go ahead and blow on that. Oh, that is kind of hot. So you gotta be very careful when you eat hot food. Now, I like to do a lot of stories when I tell my magic, so now I want to tell you the story about the ancient Chinese town of Chop Suey. In the old town of Chop Suey, there were 2 old-time magicians. Their names were You Too Old and Chuan Fat. Now, you guys are laughing at me like I'm making this stuff up. It's true. Now, the magic spirits in those days would only allow 1 magician at a time to have the magical powers. So they had to figure out a way to determine who was going to have the magical powers. And so they each had their own magic wand. And they attached tassels to each magic wand. And whoever had the long tassel had the magical powers. So right now, You Too Old would have the magical powers. But if Chuan Fat wanted the magical powers, he'd pull on his tassel, take the powers away from You Too Old. If You Too Old wanted the magical powers, he'd pull on his tassel, take the powers back away from Chuan Fat. And back and forth this would go. Chuan Fat, You Too Old, Chuan Old, You Too. Get these guys confused. They look so much alike. Now, one day, Chuan Fat wanted to see if he could keep the magical powers. So he went up into the hills. He pulled on his tassel and took the powers away from You Too Old. And he was able to keep his powers all through his travels until he came back to the ancient Chinese town of Chop Suey. Now, You Too Old, being without magical powers for a long time, pulled on his tassel, took the powers back away from Chuan Fat. Now, there was a young maiden in the village who thought she had the answer to the problem, and she went ahead and pulled on the other tassel gently. I'm glad you understand what gently means. Now, for a while, both magicians had the magical powers, but this angered the magic spirits. So the magic spirits came down, and they took the powers away from both magicians, and that is the end of the story. Now, you've heard the expression that a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Part of your mind is your imagination, so I'm going to try a little bit of experiment. Can you help me? Sure. Okay, stand up. No, you don't have to stand up. You're sitting right there. I'm not Shirley. I'm Zelnick. Now, I want to try a little experiment. I want you to hold up in your hand, and I want you to imagine that you have 4 playing cards in your hand, and they're all queens. You look like you're having a little problem, so I'm going to get you started. So that's going to leave you with black cards and red cards. So pick black or red. Red? Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to keep the red cards, and I want you to use your imagination to erase the black cards. Let me know when you're done. You're quick. Now, that leaves you with a heart and a diamond. So pick heart or diamond. diamond. So we're going to keep the diamond, we're going to get rid of the heart. So you use your imagination, erase the heart. You're too good at this. Now, that leaves us with the queen of diamonds, is that correct? She leaves us, she likes a little extra red, so splash a little extra red on there. Splash a little extra red on there. Okay, there we go, I like the flare a lot better. There we go. Now, let's see how you did. Now, we were left with the queen of diamonds, which we splashed a little extra red on, and we erased the other 3 cards. Everybody give Danielle a round of applause. Okay. Now, I do a lot of magic shows for kids, and I always get excited when I get something in the mail. I have to show you what I got in the mail. It looked like a deck of cards. It said, "To the magician, thanks for the show." And so I opened it up, and that's exactly what it was. It was a deck of cards that the kids made for me. They did all the fancy designs on the backs, and they did all the faces of the cards. Now, some of these are a little bit easier to read than others. I don't know. Now my buddies came over, were playing cards with these cards, and they didn't really like these cards because they were too hard to read. So can you give that a tap? See, now what that does, that changes that to a regular card. Okay? Now can you give that a wave? You've been practicing. What that does, that changes them all to regular cards. Now I had pretty good cards that night, but after my buddies left, I started feeling kind of guilty. Not because I had all their money, but because I didn't have the cards the kids made for me. So give that a tap. See what that does, that changes the next card back to a kid's card, and then one more wave. I like the way you do that. What that does, that changes them all back to the cards the kids made for me, backs and fronts, and that's the way I like to keep them. Now there's an expression in magic that says the hand is quicker than the eye, and I have the fastest hand around. I'm going to prove that to you. I've got the 4 aces, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then hold out your hand like that, okay? Up a little bit higher. Very good. And you hold out your hand like that. There you go. Now the bottom card is a red card. You have a pink shirt on, so we're going to give you a red card. The top card is the other red card, so we're going to give you the other red card. Now put your finger on top of there like that. Okay, that's going to give you the 2 black cards, so put your finger on top of there like that. Now what's going to happen is my hands are going to come swooshing down. They're going to change the cards. They're going to come swooshing back up, and it's going to happen so fast, you're not going to see a thing. You had the red cards, correct? Are you ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. That's all I got. Ain't got no more.